Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of Ask a Painter Live, a weekly live Facebook show where I use my 24 years of experience to answer all of your questions, whether you're a homeowner or a pro, about painting, restoration, and the like. Today I'm coming to you through my personal page to show you a mini training session that I have with my apprentices. Whenever we're on a project like this, if there's something specific that I think they would benefit from learning, I actually do on-the-job training for them. And today we're restoring my house, the hashtag Slavic Century Restoration Project. We're halfway through the project, give or take. And we're going to be restoring some foundation windows here. So I thought my apprentices would benefit from seeing some actual glass replacement and glazing. So I thought we would go through that together. So if you guys have any questions, you can type them down at the bottom of the screen there. If you have questions about the apprenticeship program, training, employee retention, historic restoration, whatever else you want to know, it'll all be here. So, okay, this is a simple one. We run into this a lot with single pane historic restorative glass here, where something has a crack in it. You know, these windows have been in this house for 100 years. This is the house's 100th birthday. So imagine lawnmowers passing by, kids throwing balls. You're gonna have replacement on every one of these jobs. Very simple to do. You simply take a heat gun, you take a scraper, you take a UV paint removal tool, and you can heat up the old glazing. You can see in here there's some remaining glazing, and I glazed a few of these panes this morning to show you the finished product. But all this old glazing, if you heat it up to a certain point, will get soft enough to take a putty knife and sort of run it along the glass like that. You can slip underneath the putty and it'll come up. It's tempting to want to run it along this thin ridge of wood right here to do this, but most likely what happens is it slips and it'll actually break the glass then too. So the trick is to sort of slip underneath and pop it up and go along like that. Now, this window has been scraped, primed, sanded, painted, and now we have a nice sealed bed of glass here. We have a nice sealed bed for the glass, and there's a couple glazier points still in here that I'm just going to remove quick. Take those guys out. Okay. All right, so we are ready for glass. And we want to either prime or paint, or prime and paint the bed for the glass, because as the water hits the pane of glass and seeps in, if there's any cracks or deviations in the glazing, it'll seep behind there and it'll actually rot it out from the inside. So this will make sure that, you know, it's kind of belt and suspenders, where you have a primed and sealed surface and you have your glazing on the outside. It's just double protection. So you take a measurement. This is probably a 10 by 12 piece of glass. Because of its age, because I had to do some heavy repairs here like this, it's parallelogrammed a little bit over the years, so it's probably an 1/8 inch off. You know, if you think about stretching it this way like that, it's probably an 1/8 inch off. So I undersize my glass. I undersize it by about a 1/16. You usually don't want to do an 1/8. You know, your margins will come outside the glass. But for this particular one, I experimented, and it was a 1/16 less. And some people lay it in a bed of putty. I find that if you have a good elastomeric paint, 100% acrylic paint, and it's a good bed that's sealed, I don't see a great need for laying it in a bed of putty. From the other side too, what we do then is, after this is in, after the glazing is in, we tape off the glass and then we paint it. And as any craftsperson knows, that whenever you paint or varnish a window, you always go about a 32nd inch onto the glass, meaning that if you tape right up to where the wood meets the glass, there's always going to be that area unsealed where the water can get behind. So you always tape your glass about a 32nd inch out, so that the paint or the varnish can get behind the glass and bridge a gap there. So I find if we do that, there's no real drop off in performance of this stuff. The old historic way was you lay down your glazing, you press that glass in there, it squeezes out the other side, you scrape it all off. This is the outside of the window here. This is the part that's going to take all the weather. The back side, that's going to be facing inside, and those stay almost perfectly protected, minus a few cobwebs here and there. So not a real need. So after we have our glass in like this, glazier points, there's a couple different kinds. but you need something to physically hold the glass in. And I don't go too excessive with these. The old traditional way are just diamonds, tiny little diamonds, parallelograms of steel, soft steel. And those, not easy to get in, not easy to get out. These are a much easier way. After you've done all this work, the last thing you want to do is have some awkward little piece of metal where you're pushing in, your putty knife slips, and then you crack your glass again. It's a huge pain. So these are really easy. You want to try to get them in as flat as possible. There's a tendency for people to want to angle them in like that. But what you'll do is you'll catch the edge of the glass and you'll actually crack it. So what you want to do is keep it as flat as possible and then just push it in.
Oh, straight in.
Wiggle it. Wiggle. Ooh, putty knife flexed a little bit. Yep, just like that. So you want it to be firm, but you don't want to, if you go towards that edge of that glass, you'll either chip the glass or crack it. So this is still good old wood. It's nice and hard. Okay. And I don't get too crazy with these things, only because, yeah, one on each, and this is, I mean, this is as firm as it's going to get, you know. You can add a whole bunch of them, but it's just more you have to cover with glazing, and it's something more that could possibly, you know, every chance you have messing with this glass, there's a chance you break it, then it's another trip to the hardware store. So, okay, very important here. There's a bunch of different kinds of glazing. There's caulk. Don't ever use caulk for this stuff. It's possible to do this. Every homeowner uses it for this, but it's not the right tool. It's too flexible, and it doesn't really stick to anything. It doesn't provide a rigid sort of frame for the window. This tube glazing, this stuff is a water-based version of the oil-based that comes in tubs. And I know you guys have experience with that sort of thing, where it comes in a tub like wall spackle. You dig some out, and it's a firm putty, almost like the putty that we patch holes in woodwork with, you know, the colored stuff. And you ball it up like that. The more you work it, it's oil-based, and the more it gets soft like clay. And you actually make it into ropes, long snakes like that, and you lay the ropes in there, and then you tool it, you know, like that. There is a special window glazer tool. It's basically just a short angled putty knife. Honestly, it's super stiff. It does a great job. So does every other putty knife I own. So it's fun to have special tools, but honestly, it does almost exactly the same thing if you know what you're doing. In the past, I've done a bunch of the oil-based stuff like that. The problem, it's super good stuff, and years and years and years later, you're able to work with it and get that glass out if you need to. The problem is if you use something either too rigid or too flexible, if you used 100% silicone around here, you'd destroy this window frame trying to get it out. So you want something that is flexible enough so you can actually make a nice 45-degree angle profile, but you want it soft enough and rigid enough to keep it in, but soft enough later so if this breaks, you don't destroy the wood trying to get it out. So what I found in the past when I have a whole bunch of these things to do, well, I should say too, the oil-based stuff, another reason I stopped using it, it takes almost 2 weeks to get firm enough to paint. And obviously, when we paint a house in 3 days, that doesn't meet our timeline. So it takes a long, long time to cure. This stuff I found is way more rigid than sealant for a house. It's toolable, but it also dries very, very firm. And the benefit is, you know, also you can apply it with a caulking gun, and it's ready to paint, you know, within a matter of a day, give or take, depending on the weather. So chalk one of these guys up here. And they, depending on the company you get this stuff from, they make the tip, so in theory you're supposed to just lay it on and leave it, but any pro will tool it themselves. So you want to get enough on there so it'll bridge the gap. In theory, you want to have a nice 45 or just a little bit steeper than a 45 to keep it in there like that. Okay. So you want to put at least that much. I usually put a good portion on there. You don't want to put twice as much because as you're tooling it, you're just pulling this huge blob of this stuff around and it gets messy. So the trick is to put on just enough to give you something to tool. do another side here to do a corner too.
Now, do you have any risk of this stuff setting up while you're tooling it? Like if you were to do an entire window, would you have any troubles?
It'll skin over in 10 or 15 minutes, and that makes it chunky. So today's a perfect day. It's 66 degrees, overcast, slight breeze. I mean, you could glaze 3 of these windows and come back and do them, but if it's 83 degrees outside, that stuff will skin over and it'll start getting lumpy when you try to pull it. So you want to try to keep, if you keep too much of like this, it'll start getting choppy in there. So what you want to do is have a nice angle like this. And then you work the tip into the corner like this, and then pull that point straight through. So you simulate those 45-degree angles in the corners. Okay, so it's tempting right now to try to get rid of this stuff, but your patience will pay off if you leave it be. Once it's dry, that stuff will pull off like a zipper. It's perfect. If you go back and try to do a bunch of this, you're gonna make a not straight line in that stuff. You could try to go back and very carefully, you know, do stuff like this, but if you wait, not only will this come off in one band, it won't leave this residue that you're going to have to, you know, wipe off later. So that's fine where it is. It's very unsatisfying to leave this like it is.
Yes.
Let's see if the stuff I did this morning. See, you can see the stuff I did this morning is a little bit, it's fairly rigid, but it could probably use overnight to set up. You can see it pulled a little bit. It didn't leave the residue, but it came off in a chunk like this. Yeah, it's just a little, it's starting to be able to come off in a rope, but it really does need overnight. And honest, it's so much easier the next day to do that stuff. So we'll leave that right there. We'll do our best to do a good pull through the corner. It's something we can always touch up later. Nice 45. And the difficult part with these windows is we got a really jagged edge here. We just have to do our best. We have to do our best to simulate the 45. If we have perfectly straight sides like this, usually not a problem. We can get a nice one with maybe one little weave or something in it. But if you look at enough historic windows from 20 feet away, they all look like, oh my God, somebody made that perfect. If you get up close, there's a lot of this going on. And there's a lot of, here's the first time it was glazed, here's the second time, they removed a bunch of stuff, they patched in, and here's the third time where the homeowner used silicone. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we can do near perfect with this stuff. So we'll do another pull here. And you got to keep a light pressure on this one because we got such a jagged edge. You can see it's weaving just a little bit. And we got a lot of patch on this window too.
Would you have to go back and fill if there's any bubbles?
Definitely.
Like a couple small ones there.
Definitely.
Backfill it.
Yep. While you have it still wet, you can just go ahead and just pump another thing, you know, just like how we're caulking the seams of this stuff here. If there's a void, you just go back over and do it. Sure. And then this stuff, you get off the majority, and just like the other stuff, it peels off really easily. So this one, because the wood has eroded to a certain point, you can see the glazier point is kind of sticking through here. So what we do then is just put a little bit more over that, and we sort of have to, get this out of there. We sort of just have to keep a light knife over the top of it just to cover it up. We can barely cover it up, but we really shouldn't see the metal because that'll kind of telegraph through the paint. Let's see if I can keep a light. I'll increase the angle a little bit. Oh, I felt it rubbing there. Okay, just hit the top one. So that wood is gone to the point where we'll probably have to wait for it to set up and go for another pass on it. Okay. So I'll just clean this stuff up here. And after this glazing is done, it'll build that up a little bit, and then we'll add the second coat of filler here and here to kind of make it nice and smooth. Okay, after that, that is about it. If this corner needs a little touch-up, you can always run one of these through again. give it that nice 45, and then you basically just let it set up overnight, get rid of the rest of the glazing, and tape it like normal. And again, even with this glazing, you want to keep a 30-second in when we tape. You want to see that tiny little hairline of glass, just so the paint completely covers the glazing and then touches the glass, and that's a perfectly waterproof surface. So, all right, questions otherwise?
No.
All right, somebody want to give it a try? Oop. Get our frosting gun going here. Here, I'll take this guy, Sam.
Go ahead.
Jamie, thank you for watching. I appreciate this. Larry Hill, Tony Stark, appreciate you watching as well. Jay Larson, local boy. Tim Marcellet, one of the finest realtors in New Prague. Imagine that. He has time to get on his phone and watch videos in the middle of the day. Nick Siebold, my friend from St. Benedict. Chad, fellow painter out here in Minnesota. Lisa, cousin of mine, thank you for watching. Ron Ramsden, thanks for watching, my friend. Efred Medina, you as well. Jamie, thank you for watching. Mike, my cousin Mike. Do one side and somebody else can take the other side there. Paul Schmidt, checking up on Kale.
Does that ever work?
If Paul, if Kale, if Kale cracks this glass, I'm sending him back to you. So, Joe, thank you for watching. Danny, good friend Danny. Liam Chesters, thank you for watching. Andy, good fishing buddy of mine. Rick Peterson, Chris Shank, the great and powerful Chris Shank. I must have missed the Napoleon Dynamite reference, guys. So you fill me in on that whole eagle and the talon thing. So Dan Wagner, good local guy here. Dave Olson, my pheasant hunting buddy, recuperating on the couch. Him and his dog have identical injuries, oddly enough. Him and his dog. We got the first pheasant at our farm. Him and his dog, and then they both go out and break their legs this year. So hopefully we can get them back to the farm. Richard Heilman, another pro from out here in Minnesota. Nick Lagrasso. Nick, thank you for all the pressure washing tips, by the way. We have, I did a whole bunch of experimentation with chemicals on the deck there, and we had a really good result with stripping. Richard, perfect exterior day as long as it doesn't rain. Yeah, this is one of those days where you sort of feel phantom raindrops. You think you feel something hit your arm, but it's sort of just you bracing for it. But yeah, you couldn't get a better day than this. Joe Passante, an old classmate of mine, good friend. Ron, great demonstration, Nick. Thank you so much. Joe Robbins, our home is 112 years old, and we are ready to begin the process of finding somebody to re-side our home. Do you have a company you would prefer to do the siding, like the siding on your home? Before you're sorry, it cut your. I think there's a limit on the thing here, but Joe, you'll have to tell me where you live. If you're local here, I can give you some names. Otherwise, this house still has its original siding on it. This is 100 years old this year, and we have massaged it back into shape. I'll switch around here. You will be very hard pressed to find a company or a product to mimic this that is within any normal budget. This is old growth, straight grain, rift sawn, either pine, heart pine, or redwood. And to get this reveal, to get this thick shadow under here, and to get this low profile, you'll be hard pressed to find something like that. In my wife and I trying to come up with a home plan in the next 5 years, we're trying to find a modern product that will simulate that, and we're having a very, very difficult time. Tammy, thank you for watching. But no, if you're Joe, if you're in the area, you can PM me, and I will send you some contractors' names. There's some really, really good contractors in the area. Juliano Alcantara, my good friend from Brazil, thank you for watching. Alexis, thank you for watching. Cousin of mine as well. John Rue, I did some restoration work on your house in New Ulm years ago. Thank you for watching. Great advice and demo on the glazing. Dustin Rasmussen, good friend of mine from St. Benedict again. Steve Dowd, always awesome. Thank you so much. That's high praise. Mike Peterson and Alex Wendt, the church restorer himself. Thank you for watching. Ryan Hauser. Ryan lives a couple blocks over. He could just walk over and watch us do this. Oh, you're in Montgomery. Okay, yeah. send me a personal message there, Joe, just as a reminder, and I'll send you some awesome siding contractors. And Brian Yindra, one of my best friends from high school, will also be doing his house this year. Thank you for watching. One of the best auto mechanics in Minnesota. And Ryan Hauser, it's coming along nicely. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this here. I try to do this at least once a week with the apprentices, and I usually try to do something very specific and hands-on, because there's no way you can get this sort of training, you know, sitting in a classroom or on a whiteboard. So yeah, this is sort of what we do, and if this interests you, if you want to be a craftsperson or the trade interests you, you can always give me a call, and you can apprentice under me, or just keep watching these videos. We do appreciate it. And I actually did feel a raindrop here, so we are going to get back to work. We're going to get this beautiful window in the garage where it's shaded and clean and warm, and we'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate all the comments, guys.